Welcome to another discussion. The last time you met me, I was common, and I thought, that's probably what's wrong with me. So I decided I'm not going to be common anymore. So these are not common times. The virus has gone viral, and every time I've been teaching, I've been common. And I thought if I dressed up like a gentleman, maybe you would pay better attention, or it would be different. I'm so much happier now, and I hope you are. So today we're going to look at chapter 11. We talked about the chapters before. This is the chapter after Pip gets money from the convict through the guy with the file. And so I want you to look at chapter 12. If you can open your book there. I'm sorry, chapter 11. If you can open your book to chapter 11. Pip meets all these Miss Havisham's relatives. And they come to her birthday so she can torture them. That appears to be the purpose. And they appear to be in a separate room, and she's still upstairs wearing the clothes she should have worn at the wedding about 2 million years ago. And Pip is kind of walking across from one place to another. And he meets a woman by the name of Camilla, who is said to be uglier than his sister and older. You can tell Dickens has a sense of humor, which is quite awesome. So, and then later on, he meets Camilla's husband and calls Camilla's husband Mr. Camilla, which is Dickens' way of saying he was like Joe, also controlled. Okay. One of the other things we know here is that Miss Havisham has a cousin who doesn't come to these birthday things, and his name is Matthew. And she's very, very angry about that. But before we get to that, on page 86, Pip is asked by Estella what he thinks about her appearance. This is page 86. It's the paragraph, for those of you who have a different book, which says, "Well, miss," I answered, almost falling over her and checking myself. She stood looking at me, and of course I stood looking at her. "Am I pretty?" "Yes, I think you are very pretty." "Am I insulting?" "Not so much so as you were last time," said I. "Not so much?" she asked. "No." She fired when she asked that last question, and she slapped my face with such force as she had when I answered it. So when Pip says Estella is not mean, Estella gets insulted. This is a really weird kind of girl. Was I mean last time? No, I was not. No. And boom. Estella gives Pip the slap she can, the best she can, the worst she can master. And then she asks, "Now?" she said. Kind of asking, "Is that good now? Is that better?" "Now," said she, "you little coarse monster, what do you think of me now?" "I shall not tell you." He's kind of crying. "Because you're going to tell upstairs, is that right?" Notice how Estella manipulates Pip. "Oh, because you're going to get upstairs and tell on me." That's Estella's way of controlling Pip from going upstairs and asking for help. "Why don't you cry again, you little wretch?" And then the next line is very telling, and I asked you about this. It says, "Because I'll never cry for you again," said I. This is an interesting line because there's that question of, is Pip telling the truth? But you don't have to wait for the end of the book like Dickens makes people wait, or until 300 pages later, or 20 pages later, or 15 pages later. He says, "Which was, I believe, or I suppose, as false a declaration as ever was made." In other words, "I'll never cry for you again." And Pip goes, "That's a lie." So what does that tell us? That later on, Pip would probably be going through a lot of pain because of Estella. This is one of those times in Dickens' books where he really doesn't hold a secret. He just tells us. And then he continues. So, which was, I suppose, as false a declaration as ever was made. For I was inwardly crying for her then, and I know what I know of the pain she caused me afterwards. Why would Dickens tell us so much at this point? Well, because Pip will cry later. That's not a secret. The next page, they meet a man. He's burly. Notice Dickens' diction. You're not familiar with this. He is burly, exceedingly dark complexion, exceedingly large head, and a correspondingly large hand. And he takes Pip's chin in his large hand, turns him up, and so on and so forth. We are told he had disagreeably sharp and suspicious eyes. Deep set, disagreeable, suspicious eyes. And his beard had been, notice the language, I'll just read it in the book. It says, he had a large watch chain and strong black dots where his beard and whiskers would have been if he had let them. Notice he didn't let them. He stopped them. There are these other back statements in that one sentence. So we get the impression this is a person who stops things or who is very controlling. He has a very large watch chain. In the Victorian period, those were expensive little pieces they were show-off jewelry. They were expensive. This is a wealthy person. This is somebody with money. This is somebody with some importance. He's very well described. Okay. Later on, we know that Pip gets in a fight. But before that, there was this mention of Matthew who doesn't come to Miss Havisham's birthdays. And we wonder why he doesn't. There has to be a reason why he doesn't. So we're going to figure that out later. Dickens will surely tell us later. Now she says page 92. It may be page 86 for some of you if you have that big brown book. Everybody else, the paragraph starts with, when they say Matthew was mentioned, and I need to read it. When they say Matthew was mentioned, Miss Havisham stopped me and herself and stood looking at the speaker. This change had a great influence in bringing Camilla's chemistry to a sudden end. So it's kind of something you don't mention. Matthew will come and see me at last, said Miss Havisham sternly, when I am laid on that table. That will be his place, there, striking the table with her stick, at my head. And yours will be there, and your husband's there, and Sarah Pocket there, and Georgiana's there. Now you all know where to take your stations when you come to feast upon me, and now go. So she kicks them out after telling them where each one of them will stand when she is dead at her dinner table. So hopefully they'll have to move the cake and all the cups and all the stuff that's there for the wedding and use it, or maybe leave it there and use it for the funeral. We don't know, but she mentions that. Okay. And this is her birthday, she tells Pip. And then Pip fights the pale boy. Notice on page 97, this is later on, Pip wins the fight, but he's not necessarily proud of it. You notice how Dickens tells us something about these two boys, page 97. The paragraph says, he seemed so brave and innocent. Notice that word. Dickens is very, very careful with his words, with his language. So here, he tells us that the boy was innocent. that although I had not proposed the contest, I felt but a gloomy satisfaction in my victory. Pip did not suggest the fight. Who did? This boy looks innocent. And he started a fight? Something is awkward there. Indeed, I go so far as to hope that I regarded myself while dressing as a species of savage young wolf or other wild beast. However, I got dressed, darkly wiping my sanguinary face at intervals, and I said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "No, thank you." And I said, "Good afternoon." And he said, "Same to you." These boys fight. Pip appears not to have started the fight. If the boy started the fight, appears to be, why did he? He looks innocent and he's kind of nice. He says goodbye. Why did this happen? There's a hint here. When I got into the courtyard, page 97, I found Estella waiting with the keys, but she neither asked me where I had been, nor why I had kept her waiting. Why would she do that? Is it possible she knew where he was and saw where he was? And there was a bright flash upon her face. Why would Estella be happy at this moment? As though something had happened to delight her. Do you think that might be a little fight between two boys? Do you think she may have started this fight and then enjoyed watching it? Probably. Dickens wants us to think so. Instead of going straight to the gate too, she stepped back into the passage and beckoned me. "Come on, come. Come here. You may kiss me if you like." I kissed her cheek as she turned it to me. I think I would have gone through a great deal to kiss her cheek, but I felt that the kiss was given to the coarse common boy as a piece of money might have been, and that it was worth nothing. Estella tells Pip to kiss him. He does, and that's pretty much the end of chapter 11. Now, chapter 12 and 13 and 14, there's a change of tone because something else happens. Pip has grown up a little bit more. And if you look at chapter 12, the first few paragraphs, there are all these lawyer words, like the word law in paragraph 1, and penalties, and punishment, and officers, and county jail, and evidence, and guilt, and accounting, and damnatory circumstances, and judges, just in one paragraph. In the second paragraph, the diction includes scene of the crime, of the deed of violence, terrors, myrmidons of justice, lying in ambush. There's draw a pistol, shoot, dead, cuff, testimony, accessory, retaliation, injudicious, or in one paragraph. This chapter then has something to do with law. Okay, on page 99, Pip tells us about 8 months have passed since the birthday party. Okay, almost a year has passed. And you notice Pip starts to desire for Miss Havisham to come up with money maybe to help him with education. Does she? No, she doesn't. But he says this. I want you to notice this, page 100. This is the page where Pip tells Miss Havisham all his goals, but she doesn't appear to be very interested. You wonder why she would not. But I want you to notice this. Estella was always about and always let me in and out, but never told me I might kiss her again. Why would Pip tell us this? Do you think he came thinking, today is the day? and spent the whole day thinking, she'll ask, she'll ask, she'll ask. And at the end of the day, she opened the door, kicked him out, and locked it up. And he walked home sad and hoped it would happen the next day. She was always about, but she never really asked me to kiss her again. Sometimes she would coldly tolerate me. Sometimes she would condescend to me. Sometimes she would be quite familiar with me. Sometimes she would tell me energetically that she hated me. What kind of a person is this? Would you like to live with a person like this? Think about what you know, and this is why it's important, actually, and fortunate that we are a little bit behind in this discussion, because you've read a little bit forward. Estella is unpredictable. That's what Dickens is trying to tell us. Now, in the same paragraph, Miss Havisham would often ask me in a whisper, or when we were alone, does she grow prettier and prettier, Pip? And when I said yes, for indeed she did, would seem to enjoy it quite greedily. So Pip is telling us, Estella is getting more beautiful. Oh, he notices, huh? It takes him up to chapter 17 to notice Billy's kind of getting pretty. But he notices in chapter 11 and 12, forget that, when she first opened the gate, that she was very pretty. On the outside, she's very pretty. On the inside, not so much. But anyway, Miss Havisham appears to enjoy that. Now, notice Dickens asks a question here. Later on, it's on page 101. What could I become with these surroundings? Pip is asking himself, what will become of me? What becomes of a young boy when he is in the company of people like Miss Havisham and Estella? How could my character fail to be influenced by them? So you may have to ask the same question, really. Dickens is asking a double question. You think Pip is asking this question, it's a young boy, he's asking this for himself, but he's also asking, what is the influence of this on Estella? And if you think about it, Miss Havisham never leaves this place, so Estella doesn't leave this place. If you're Estella, you haven't left home because Miss Havisham, she doesn't go to church, she doesn't go anywhere, she doesn't open the door, so you are home all the time. So Pip may be all the boys she knows and the young gentleman Pip fought with about a year ago, as far as we know. What will become of a child like Estella? You notice the writer here is dealing with child abuse and neglect, or whatever you want to call it in your theme tracker, although the child is in a wealthy family, a prosperous family. So Dickens is trying to, just like the virus we are seeing right now, to make it where it owns everybody. It doesn't draw limits. So notice how that is presented here. But then later on, Pip, they take the money that Pip made. Mrs. Joe takes the money, and she had just quite a blast with all the money. And I could tell from your comments that several of you are quite angry about that injustice. And so they take the money, and Pip is about 11 or 12. They take the money, and in chapter 13, I'm sorry, before we go to chapter 13, they take that money and they have a really nice time with it. This scene is a foil of of the scene in the earlier chapters, the Christmas dinner. First of all the people who go to use Pip's money are the same people who are at the dinner, the Christmas dinner. The victim is the same, Pip, and to an extent, Joe. So it is very much the same. Pip doesn't like this dinner, and neither did he the previous one. Now, the other thing is, there's a theft here. Pip's money has been taken by Mrs. Joe. In the previous one, Pip was the thief, except that we can forgive Pip in the past because he was forced by circumstances. He was young and naive. Mrs. Joe is just a vicious, ugly, old woman. And so at the end of it, Pip is asked to bring his indentures, and they take them to court, and Pip is signed up to become a blacksmith. Okay, now if you look at chapter 13, Pip and Joe travel, and I think I'm going to actually cut this video at this point, and that way I can deal with chapter 14, chapter 13 a little bit more, and 14 together, instead of drawing you out on a video that is about more than 20 minutes long. I think when I discuss the next chapter 2, I also try not to be common, so I dressed up the suit just to make sure. Okay, so I will see you guys in the next video.